Hey there, basketball fans. Welcome to Gotta Get Up. I am live here. Hold on, let me get my camera situated. Live here. We took a little time off from the off season, but we are coming back. Talk a little bit about the WNBA finals and then all of the other women's basketball happening. This is another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans.
Gotta get up. Gotta get up.
Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. All right, hockey. Nope, this is a basketball podcast. See, that's what happens, Misha Jones. I'm doing too much. We're in the off season now. I'm talking about hockey.
And that's all right, because you're doing great work, and we appreciate you being scatterbrained on our behalf.
Oh, look at that. I love it. It is off-season WNBA, which, of course, Misha, though, means we've got NCAA. We are also trudging ahead into an Olympics in the summer, Paris 2024. So there is plenty of women's basketball happening. We're going to get Brian Fleurantin in here in a little bit. But Misha. Now, Brian and I got to do a very immediate reaction to Game 4, but we haven't been able to chop it up with you since. So let's just start there. It's a podcast for New York Liberty fans, but give it to us straight. What were your thoughts on how the series ended, how the WNBA season ended in 2023?
So first and foremost, I got to start with props, right? I got to say the Aces, they already have my full respect, to be completely honest with you, but they are proper back-to-back champions, dominant champions. Like, they shut everybody up. We've all seen by now, all the celebration and parade videos and Sid Colson twerking on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people. Like, we've all been benefactors of all that entertainment. But as far as the basketball of it all, I just think that this is exactly how I saw the season go. Like, the Aces going once the playoffs hit, at least. At the top of the season now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I automatically had the Aces going back to back. I didn't. Things looked a lot different at the top of the season, in my opinion. But they put it on the Liberty the way that I figured they probably would. I thought it would take 5 games, because when you miss 2 starters, we all have talked about it over and over again. That's something that's hard to, make up to our production, but the Aces were stacked, and they got it done even quicker than I thought they would. So props to y'all. And thinking about moving forward, CP3, hi, hello. CP3, released some news.
That's
news,
it.
you can call it, on her status for next season. If she's healthy, she's gonna go, and I'm so excited to hear that. But I really do think, as far as looking ahead, that really determines what I think the Aces do next season, because with an entire offseason to plan, an entire offseason to move some things around, make some trades, things like that. Who knows who's going to be a contender next year?
I feel that. Damien, what's up? Damien's been like an OG. We've gone through a lot, Damien, but we back here. Thank you so much for joining us. If y'all have comments for us, Misha Jones on here with me now, Erica L. Ayala, and Brian Fleurantin should be joining us as well. But, we're going to do a real quick recap because, like you said, it's all been out there by now. Brian and I did a quick post-game show, our last one from Barclays Center. We had the homie Jeff Magliacetti there, as people are literally walking by us, cleaning the arena. But
that's how it goes. They do. Look. You know how much they sacrifice to get y'all this podcast, this content. This is work. Okay,
we put in work. So yeah, we took a little time off, a little short, little off season for us. But I agree with you. We talked about it a little bit, Brian and I, with Jeff. When you have 2 starters down and you're not only the opposition, but you're the home team whose back is up against the wall. Mm-hmm. And I said this on our immediate reaction, but it was wild to me. Commissioner's Cup, regular season, players in, players out. Candace Parker goes down, 2 starters out for Vegas. And Game 4 is the game that we got that was close.
Yeah.
which was just wild. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt physically ill. Like, I didn't even see Sabrina Ionescu on the bench, and I'm glad I didn't because I was like going through some things. So
Oh man.
I don't know. There was something in the air in Brooklyn, but to what you said to the Aces, I agree. And also what we've been saying all season about the New York Liberty effectively turned out to be true. And what I don't appreciate, I didn't appreciate it all season, and I definitely didn't appreciate it as a New Yorker after the game, is that everything that we had been saying, the Tuckman's model of it all, the leadership, all of those things we knew were in question, and the Liberty were moving ahead of probably schedule in some areas. And the question was, were they going to get over the hump this year?
Mm-hmm.
That's always been on the table. We talked about it every single time we hopped on this here podcast. And so when I started getting wind, when we did the post-game show, I didn't have the full quote from Kelsey Plum, but I saw that thing after, and my immediate reaction was like, oh, hell no. Hell no. Like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm going to read the quote because, I don't want to be in here, I want to make sure I am being specific in my gripe. Quote, as much as they're a team, they're not a team. They're really good individual players, but they don't care about each other. And you can tell in those moments.
Bold statement.
Kelsey. Look. I'm gonna say
take your time.
No. I'm finding it. I'm
screaming.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. Auntie gonna find it. Okay. Kelsey. Listen, baby. I'll be the first one to tell you. That's why I wrote the article. I literally wrote the article. Are we talking about two super teams? Hell no. You got to put respect on who the Aces were, are, and likely will be next year. They put in the work. I talked about it. We already saw the crocodile tears from Asia. This is not me throwing shade. These are facts. Facts on facts on facts. We saw the heartache. We saw the rebuild from the front office. Okay, they put money down to bring Becky Hammon in. They earned the right to be the presumptive favorites going into the finals. Let's keep it a buck. And Kelsey, baby, listen. I'm gonna say it like this. The code of the streets. If someone was talking about you and your boo and used the words that Kelsey used, how would you feel? How would you feel? Oh, you talking about my house? You talking about my relationships? Oh, you just know what is going on in my spot like that? Like that's how you feel? You feel that comfortable? Are you just gonna make these proclamations? Nah, that did not sit well with me. And then the discourse behind people getting mad that Jonquel Jones used the word classless. Like I said, code of the streets. You want to talk about somebody else's relationship, talking baka out your mouth about things you don't know? Classless, you lucky if that's all you get called.
Yeah. I think that's it's an extremely valid response to, like you said, somebody, especially after you just lost the finals. Are we being for real? Like, to expect people to not have had a reaction to those words is completely unrealistic.
No.
And no matter what y'all think the spirit of what she said was, like, that's where I'm at with it. I'm like, all right, she said it. What did she mean? We can leave that to her. We can leave that to y'all. We can leave that to everybody to decipher. But fact of the matter is, you said some words.
What you said, and then she walked it back, but it was like, since media wants to make it, I was like, baby, no. Media does a lot of things. Media, like this big, cloud of media. Like media does some things.
Yeah.
Media does some things. But media did not put your words together like that.
Exactly.
Media did not tell you to talk about they don't care about each other.
Mm-hmm. And something else, Erica, this might be a hot take for some people who want us to all hold hands and, have Christmas dinner together and whatever else. We're all allowed to disagree as media and as players. I'm okay
Correct.
with you standing on business. I'm okay with you standing on business, Kelsey, because y'all just beat the brakes off the
right.
You know what I
It
mean?
wasn't the night. Like I didn't have nothing to say about none of that. None of
Stand
it.
on your business. Stand on your business. Say what you say with your chest. Don't walk it back, because frankly, that's what competitive sports is. You know what I mean? When we get deep into it, we're
Correct.
not all going to agree with each other. We're not all going to lose gracefully, win gracefully, this, that, and the third.
Right.
That's part of the game. So I'm like, hey, I want more people saying exactly what they think and, standing on it 10 toes.
Yeah, stand on it 10 toes, because it was like, oh, well, because, media misinterpreted. And, Jonathan Kolb, GM, gave a lot of grace in his comments, because he immediately said, I think what she said was taken out of context.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't have been me. and it sure isn't. It wouldn't. But as the GM, it wouldn't have been me. I've been like, yeah, I read that. I would, Stewie, I feel like Stewie had the best comments. She's like, my thoughts are, because here's another thing that got me hot, is that people, and Brian is here. He knows, because we were there. What up, Brian? What up?
Brian?
What up? Brian from Brooklyn. Brian, you know this. So we talking about Kelsey Plum. We talking about the Kelsey Plum comments. Okay, and I know you know this because we were there for the exit interviews. But the comment was read word for word to the players. Now, whether they saw it or not before that, I mean, nobody admitted to that except for Jonathan, I think. I don't think anyone else said, oh, yeah, we saw that. Da, 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 da. Sandy, I don't think, had any clue what was going on, because she kept looking at me. I was like, girl, wait for it. You just wait till that wait till that end quote drops. But I thought it was interesting that Jonathan Kolb started his remarks by saying, like, oh, I don't really think that's what Kelsey meant. I think what she said was taken out of context. I was like, all right, bro, you're doing a lot there. But Stewie was like, my reaction and my thoughts are, congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces. And I was like, see, that's why I mess with you.
Yeah, I thought that, especially, for all the players who answered, I understood why they were aggravated by it, because honestly, think about it. Someone who, in a work setting, who's not around y'all like that, is talking specifically about, oh, y'all don't care about each other. That's why. And I'm like, because I saw it. Like, the funny thing about it is, I saw the quote sort of percolating a little bit on Twitter the night before. I was like, this is weird. And then the next morning, when it really blew up, I'm like, this is going to be a thing that they have to address. And especially considering how the series ended, where they were 1 second at 1 point away, going back to Game 5 and a chance to bring it all the way home and finish the story. I could understand why, to a person, they were all annoyed by it. And I think at the same time, too, it's because when I had asked JJ, just like, reflecting on the year between coming to New York, dealing with the foot fracture, which we found out about in May, and then having to adjust to the new role, new city, getting your health back to where you were, and then falling 1 second short. It's a lot to handle. And I think when she was talking about just how, like, her teammates really kept her uplifted even throughout the year, when she was like, yo, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This is just not the good time for me right now. I think that part really, I can understand completely why they were also annoyed by that, because it's a situation where it's like, yo, we've been through a lot, and they're open with us by and large. I know, like, people were mad that they ducked out, but that was like the exception to a usual norm kind of thing with them. So it's like they're, we see them as much as we can see with what they're doing, and you sort of see the togetherness sort of grow throughout time and the comfort they have with each other. And hearing a competitor who just got one over on you at the last second be like, oh, what are they? Super
like they don't care about each other. Like all of the other stuff I could almost excuse it, but like in the middle of the quote is they don't care about each other. And that just is categorically false.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a betting woman, but I would put money on that. And everything that we heard, even because it wasn't always, that question was asked to multiple people, but it wasn't always the first question. And so we were hearing the players talk about, because that's usually what happens at exit interviews for everyone except the champion, right? It's like, well, I loved, it's part of the Tuckman's model. Once the task is done, you reflect emotionally about the journey. And more often than not, you can appreciate the hard times once the journey or the task is completed for whatever that cycle is. Did they accomplish their mission of winning a championship? No. But that's all that they did what they could for this go round. And now they have to figure out how to rebuild. And so I'm with you. I think it was just like, there was a lot going on. Again, if I understand what Kelsey meant, and I even said it, Brian, when we were with Jeff, I was like, I didn't like what I think I'm seeing that she said. If I understand what I think she's trying to say, I can hold space in my head for, this is not a team that has been battle tested in the same way as the Aces. Like I was saying, Misha, we talked about that. Yeah. But to say they don't care about each other, I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Anyway, so
Erica, but before we go, I will say one last thing. Like, I've been in media a couple years now, so it's like, I'm out and I'm at the availabilities, I'm at these things, I'm doing this, doing that, interviewing folks, all that kind of thing. Don't be like the media did it to me when
that's
it seems
exactly
like,
what I said before you hopped on.
Wow. Like it doesn't sound like the quote was inaccurate. It sounds like it was conveyed correctly in the proper context and the proper setup for it. So don't be like it's weird because like I feel, oh man, Speak your mind, King. I have so many media opinions I'm just never going to share on Twitter because I don't want to be bothered with anybody trying to give me sass about stuff about my job. So I'm like, hey, if someone's like properly quoting you in the right way, hey, come on. I didn't say it. I wouldn't like they don't care about each other. I didn't do it. You did.
So since you mentioned it again, because I definitely mentioned that too, this was her retort. Since the media wants to do clickbait, I'm going to cut this drama out right now so we can move on and be in peace. What I said was taken extremely out of context. I was trying to articulate my teammates and I have been through a lot, and we used our bond to get over the hump. Okay.
Yep. That sounds all right. That sounds
radically. See, like I could have done without the first part. If the quote had started with, what I said was taken extremely out of context, I probably still would have rolled my eyes at that. But all right.
Keeping it real.
I've been like, okay, cool, tight. I was trying to articulate my teammates and I have been through a lot, and we used our bond to get over the hump. But like, you didn't even want to start there. Just take your lick. Because if you didn't mean they don't care about each other, then start with what you meant. Yeah. Start with if it's an apology, because I don't see no apology here. That's another thing. Did I need one personally? No. I'm just saying, if someone wanted to say this was an apology, I'd be like, try again. But like, to start with, since the media wants to do clickbait,
the scapegoat. We're always us, right? It's always us.
We're always the problem. We're always the problem. But it worked fine for you, right? When I was the one who had the video talking about we've been beat up, arrested, or whatever, tomatoes, greens, whatever she was talking about. She had no problem with that clickbait. Kelsey Plum.
And also, I'm thinking about this now in the context of that Washington Post story about the league over the weekend, and I'm like, I have so many thoughts. I feel like most of them I'll share after we're done recording here because I got I got opinion. I got thoughts.
Listen, we
I
got
got
thoughts. Listen,
I got bars to get off. I will probably
Listen.
get to them eventually in a professional setting. Maybe
Listen.
not, but bars will be gotten off eventually.
Listen. I'm here for it. It's the off season. I feel like we had what would be an appropriate grieving / I'm gonna let you have your moment. We gave the Aces more time than Kanye gave to Taylor Swift, so I'm feeling all right. And now everything's fair game. Kelsey Plum, you still my dog? Nah.
We
Make
gave
me
him
look
more
at it.
time than Kanye gave Taylor Swift.
Listen, I didn't say I'm gonna let you finish and then actually not. I let you finish. I let you celebrate. I let you be serenaded by Usher and twerk everything that your mama gave you, all up and down.
Usher concerts look like so much fun.
They
Like,
do. I want to go to Vegas.
I need someone to like put me on a media assignment to cover an Usher concert in Vegas. I will write you the best story of that.
Listen, you might have missed your window unless the Aces three-peat, which would bring them into conversation because people already wanted to have the Houston Comets conversation. No. We ain't there yet. Try just winning 4. Just win 4. And then if it's not consecutive, then no, you're not in the conversation with the Houston Comets. You're in the conversation with the Seattle Storm. They're in the conversation right now with the Detroit Shock, with the Sparks, with the Minnesota Lynx. But if you don't go back to back,
the Houston Comets, that's one of those teams. This is a situation. Let's take a second, folks. Let's just breathe.
One day at a time.
let's breathe. Let's slow down. All right.
Erica, I have a related question for you.
Oh dear, here we go. What you got? No.
So,
what
are we talking about?
So next time we see Vegas, next time we do Vegas media, do you think they'll still say that they're not a super team anymore, or have we had to retire that now?
Well, listen, I got A'ja Wilson on the record talk about it's going to take a lot more than 2 to be a super team. Now, I don't know. They was partying like they were pretty super. And you know what? They earned it. Their owner still seems to think that winning a WNBA championship makes you a world champion. I disagree, sir. You're literally not the world champion. WNBA champion for sure. Earned that.
Better that than Raiders.
Well, maybe that's why he's just lumping in all of. It's like you're the championship of this world, of this.
You know what? Let's think of it that way. Let's think.
That's what we're gonna do. Okay, yeah. All right. We cleared it up. We fixed it. All right, Damien. I see you here holding it down. I think this is a perfect time to get to Damien's question because Brian, you and I were at exit interviews. We got a little bit of a taste, a little bit of a teaser. I actually did not put this on the rundown, but we're going to improvise. Audible, here we go. We're going to improvise. What are our expectations for the Liberty next year and in free agency? So Brian, why don't we start with some of the nuggets that Jonathan and some of the other players talked about, particularly when it comes to Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and Courtney Vandersloot, who all technically would be free agents.
Yeah. On the Stewie front, Jonathan let off the gate with like, "Hey, she being cored. Don't you ain't even got to ask about it, guys. She's cored. She here. Let's get on to this next business." And on the JJ front, she mentioned that she's leaning towards New York right now, which was I think a great sign for the franchise. I think and she also just sort of like to tie it back a little bit to the media piece earlier. She had mentioned that in exit interviews that this time there was a great media presence, which she wasn't used to in a good way. Just having that accessibility, having that coverage, having eyes on the game, I think matters a lot. And I think especially in JJ's case, I think back to the story that Katie Barnes of ESPN did a couple of years ago about the WNBA growing and building out stars in that way. And I think the New York market really helps in getting more different faces out there, different players, different faces, different backgrounds, different everything in a sense. So I think that part could play a role in JJ possibly coming back to New York, just sort of continuing to build on the foundation she's laid in Brooklyn and New York City throughout 2023. Yeah. And I think also on the court, just having a situation where we gradually saw her get better and better throughout the year. I think this was such a radical change for the Liberty and building this boat on the fly, potentially having all the starting five back and being able to build on this foundation and build out a little bit better, and having everyone at 100% full strength going into camp and going into the season, I think will be a huge thing as far as relates to, like, managing minutes. Erica in the process, Sandy was like, "Oh, maybe I should lower Stewie's minutes," and then Erica immediately looked back at me and was like, "I don't told you."
Who said that? Who said that mid-season and had people up in the Black Rosie Media comments trying to tell me? I ain't know what I was talking about. Okay.
So to that point, if they're able to keep everything going, it'll make things a lot smoother for what's promising to be a really wild year with everyone going into Olympic play in the summer. And on the Vandersloot front, she mentioned that she's not doing any overseas play for now, at least. So this is her first off season in a good while, where she just gets to sort of like sit down and relax and just sort of like rest her body up instead of like traveling over to like a Russia or Turkey or any country like that and playing and adding more miles on the odometer. So that part I think would be very beneficial for her too. And on the Jonathan front, he said something I thought was really interesting. He mentioned that the bench was big heavy in 2023. And that's something he's going to look to sort of correct if possible, as far as, maybe getting another defender on the perimeter, a little bit more athleticism on the wing to complement what they have here. And then just sort of like using that to build on the work the starting five does. I think that part because I feel like when the Liberty have sort of like hit they sort of like built the starting five, that part's fine. Now it's just a matter of like tweaking at the margins, sort of like getting that piece here or there. They have a draft pick to work with, so they might be able to utilize that. And I think with the prioritization piece for a couple players, that might prove to be complicated. And the league is supposed to give guidance on what that looks like. I think they had league meetings last week, if I'm not mistaken. So we will have a better sort of like read as to what the new and hard, fast rule is going to look like this time around, as compared to a sort of like liberal interpretation this year. So we'll see how that shapes up their plan as well.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But also, like, I feel like you probably could have handled that prior to the end of the season. Because if you know anything about the W, there were people like, okay, thanks so much for your coverage. I'm going to the airport now. Like, people are already gone. What we talking about? And you're going to have meetings to discuss what it's going to look like. I'm going to need y'all to have that wrapped up. But prioritization, we're definitely going to keep talking about that in our off-season episodes. JC, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm glad you love the rant. Listen, I just had some things. And
she has some things on her heart.
I had some things on my heart and my mind. And this is a podcast for New York Liberty fans, so I feel like it's a safe space. Misha, okay. A few other things that I want to talk about. Brian mentioned the bench. To go back to Damien's question, I'd love to get you to weigh in here. Now, Jonathan talked about the bench. We heard Sandy Brondello talk about the bench, including the whole situation where, maybe it would have been nice to give Stewie some rest. Stewie talked about it. She was like, I don't even know. I feel like, to summarize, because I asked her, what did it feel like for you? She was like, I don't even know. In summary, that's what she said. Because she I don't know. I gotta look back at the tape. But anyway, the point being, I thought Steph Dolson seemed the most non-committal. And I feel like maybe she's looking at the tea leaves, the writing on the wall. Who are some of the players? If we know that the Liberty are coring Stewie, that they are going to heavily prioritize bringing back Jonquel Jones and Courtney Vandersloot, if we know that they want to get some more rest for Stewie moving forward, and that they want to get a little bit more, the term athletic was used for their bench backcourt. And so when they have reserves come in for Sabrina Ionescu and Courtney Vandersloot, who are some of the players that you think can still fit in that mold? Who are some of the players that you think maybe would be good gets for the New York Liberty? Before you answer, though, we also have to mention Marine Johannes all but confirmed that because of her situation with the French national team, who of course will be hosting the Olympics, that she more than likely, and prioritization, which Brian was just talking about, she will more than likely not play in the WNBA, ergo henceforth, thus not play for the New York Liberty next season. So we got to take MJ off the table. How do you think that might impact what the Liberty have said their offseason targets are?
Oh boy. So for me, there's a name on this New York Liberty roster that I'm looking at it that cannot, by no means can you let this player go if you're Jonathan Cole. That is Kayla Thornton.
Already signed.
Okay. Beautiful. Because she is,
and Laney too. And I'm with you, but
yes,
she's
one of those bench players that, I mean, she showed it. You know what I mean? She showed and proved it during the finals, during the playoffs, in any situation where the New York Liberty needed her. You know, she didn't get the run that Sabrina got. She didn't get the run that Laney got. Of course she didn't. But when she got minutes, she was impactful, and she showed, you know, she's one of those players that no matter what the vibe is with JJ, what the vibe is with Sabrina or Stewie or, you know, Sloot, no matter what's happening, if it's up or down, she's going to come in and she's going to do what she does. And I think she fits in perfectly with that picture you just painted, and with the picture that Jonathan Kolb, I think, is trying to paint with this roster. Outside of that, though, my goodness, you know who I would love to see in a New York Liberty jersey? I'm hesitant to say she's just a point guard, because I think she could do a lot more than what she was able to do this season because of her situation. Shug Sutton. Shug Sutton is a bucket. If anybody has watched Shug Sutton play multiple times over this past season, she can produce offensively. She's athletic, she's quick, she can, you know, I think she would be perfect for a backup role to a SI or to a Slutie. And you know, she's another player who in the WNBA, what was it, 2 seasons ago, Rebecca Gardner took the entire league by storm. Because, you know, she's a little older. Okay, that's fine, but nobody knows what she can do. Nobody knows what to expect when you put her on the court, and she was able to have such impact because she was a new face. She's not somebody that's, you know, everybody's already seen, you know, what she can do. And I see Shug Sutton kind of in that same vein in a different position. So I think that's got to be somebody that they go after. I don't know where her contractual situation is. That's not my ministry. But you know, that's a name I would have on my list if I'm Jonathan Kolb.
I love it. I want to get to this one. We have another question. We are live, so if y'all have questions or comments, pop them in the chat. But JC asking, what do you think the conditions need to be for Stewie to be more consistent towards the postseason? Rest that child. Listen. She was putting in buku work early. And I feel like we talked about it. I think, Misha, you and I don't know if Brian was able to join us, but we talked about it in passing, maybe on the live show, and then definitely as we were getting ready to record. But like, you also had the Liberty players going through personal, real life, I'm a whole grown human type things. Vandersloot with her mom, Stewie with Ruby turned 2 during the season and had a child on the way. Teo, congratulations. And Marta just out here, like, she was in her freaking Halloween costume just a few days after the Teo announcement. I was like, Marta, that's snapback. Okay, let's go.
Go ahead,
Go ahead. Don't hurt nobody. What were they? It was like they dressed up as like, Stewie was Donald, right? And who was everybody else? I don't remember. Anyway. Anyway, now we're
look at the post.
This is going on a rant. To get back to the question, she needs rest, right? She needs rest. She's a mother of 2 young children. She was dealing with her wife being pregnant throughout this season and had to be the face, the facilitator, the scorer, the everything for the New York Liberty. And we asked Brian Sandy this throughout the season, and she told us early that she needed to get the chemistry between the starting 5 on point. Made total sense. And we started seeing her incorporate the bench a little bit. Thought that was great. If there was a shortcoming, and we talked about this also on the show in the finals, the shortcoming was I don't think Sandy found the right mix. And she admitted as such. She didn't find the right mix. I think we could have seen more Kayla Thornton in the finals. I think we could have seen more Steph Dolson in the finals. And that just didn't happen. So to answer JC's question, I think you need to have the supporting cast of characters know their role and play their role. We talked about that a lot, even when it came to Benajelani, who was also signed, contract extension signed prior to the end of the season. You have to, and we found out through some reporting that I think ESPN did, that Benijah had to have a heart-to-heart with Sandy Brondello and say, listen, like this is the role that I'm playing right now, but this is not the role that I want to play for, in perpetuity for forever. And so I know the question was about Stewie, but I think, and we've talked about it, how much are we going to go? How long can the Liberty sustain playing by committee? That was a necessity with how they were trying to get that, easy bake oven chemistry. But if Stewie is your chord player, if you're saying until you're ready to give the keys to Sab that it's Stewie, then you need to build up her support staff, and they need to know their role. So that starts with Thornton, definitely with Laney, who's going to be in her starting 5 rotation, and Sabrina Ionescu also has to step up. Now, Brian, what we also found out, and this will help us transition, we're going to talk about Laney and Sabrina Ionescu a little bit more, but what we found out to close exit interviews on the Sabrina Ionescu front, first of all, she apologized for not coming to post-game media. She said she was not feeling well. She also confirmed that, yes, she did throw up in a garbage can. So, I mean, if she said she wasn't feeling well, I could maybe understand it.
Not that we needed her to confirm.
Right. I mean, we have video evidence. Thank you.
He was all up in her mouth on TV, so not that we needed. That was so. Oh my God.
So I've just seen still shots. I have not watched the whole game back. I'm not quite ready for that. I feel like the wounds have healed a little. I'll do it maybe in December for the holiday season, because why not? But
why would you do that to yourself?
But because I ain't got nothing else to do. Just sit here and wallow in my sorrows. No, it's because you know what Kobe said? He was like, I love watching film. I'm gonna go full Kobe on it. Anyway, Sabrina Ionescu admitted, Brian, that she injured her hip, which we saw. She took a gnarly hit in the semifinal series against Connecticut. And she said that was an injury that was bothering her because it was wild. I kept game after game after game. I was like, all right, Sab going to step it up this game. Nope, didn't happen. Sab going to step it up this game. It never happened. She never hit that next level. And it seems like potentially, Brian, it had to do with an injury.
Yeah, and I guess before I get to the other part, as someone who has thrown up in public before, I will say I've been there. It happens to the best of us, You've got a friend in me.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I guess to the health
point. Nasty. Yeah, nasty.
I just like to have fun, Erica.
Sometimes it happens. It's just what. Hey, I'll watch it to the game sometimes. That's how it goes.
I'm 26.
Oh, dang. Y'all telling on yourselves.
I'm just trying to keep it as real as I can. You know what I'm saying? Anyway,
we're all about transparency here.
That's right. And
to Sabrina's health, I think that especially having the situation where her hip, because I remember even in the Connecticut series, I was like, wow, because she spent the whole fourth quarter, I think it was 3, just having the ice pack on her hip the whole time, and it's like, ooh, that might. Like, you tend to forget about injuries over time, but it's like it still happened. And, especially with the high stakes of it, it's like, especially for a competitor who plays with the passion that she does, it's like, if I can move, I can play. And even if you're not a full shift, you're going to try to find just enough to get through. And this time she wasn't. But I think even in the availability with Team USA, she mentioned that just playing in these high stakes games is such a valuable lesson for her that she could sort of build off into for next year. And I think
Brian, whose question was that again? Was that your question?
That part, yes.
That was your question.
Yes. we both got our good questions in. Erica got the hip. I got the experience piece. We're all making it happen.
That's right. Because we are here for you, New York Liberty fans. I was like, oh no, she not leaving an answer this hip question. And then we did also confirm that, yeah, she is feeling much better. So
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that, especially with her going into next season, I want to tie it back to the Stewie point as well too. I think that with the Liberty having more comfort with each other for next season, I think it'll be a situation where I think Stewie is still going to be like the person where when all else fails is like, Stewie, do stuff. But I think at the same time, hey,
You're right.
There are so many games where Sydney's like, man, I don't
Do
know
something.
Like, Brianna, you got the ball. I'm gonna leave you to it. Like, you on top of it right now. Make sure we end the shift on a positive note so we can go home. And she always did. So I think that for next year as well too, I'm really curious to see how the rest of the lineup just sort of like continue sort of finding its footing in that way. I think now that they've got that chemistry down pat, they can sort of like ease off of Stewie a little bit and sort of like give the keys to Sabrina a little bit more. Because I know, Erica, we've been talking about that a lot, where it's like, okay, Sabrina is the person who's going to lead us into the future. Can we be comfortable in giving her a little bit more responsibility on that front now? And I think that with how she was able to adjust to the different role this year and still integrating JJ when she got back into full strength, making sure Lainey got to her spots in the court and not just being a spot-up shooter like she was at the beginning of the year, I think that piece will really sort of like help build everything out. And I think just on the Brianna front, with Paris coming up, I feel like she's going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do with Team USA. So if I'm Sandy, I guess, Sandy's coaching Australia, so she might be like, oh, I'm going to push you a little bit harder just in case I see you in the gold medal game. Hey.
Listen.
I don't think Sandy.
No, Sandy, of all coaches, Sandy she'd do the opposite. And I'd be like, Dad, can you think about us for once?
I have a question for y'all because Erica and I have talked about this already about the giving Sabrina the keys situation.
Oh yes.
I'm curious, as the folks that personally I trust for all the New York Liberty observations that I need.
Thank you.
Where
not that I need though, like Loki said, not shade light though. I was like, I picked up on that.
Anyways,
when we invite the Washington Mystics to the party.
foolish. No, I want to know because I'm really invested in giving Sabrina the keys, and I want to know from y'all's perspective, like, what are her next steps? We know everybody was mad at her about her defense this season. We already know that. We know everybody was mad at her in the playoffs because, like you were just saying, moments needed her to step up. Yeah, she did in some moments. In other moments, she disappeared. But like, if she's going to have more of the load next season, where are her next steps? What is the improvement that she needs to make heading into this Team USA situation?
Yeah. I think one thing with Sabrina, I think that she is getting better at. I think as far as like being a team defender, I think she's getting more and more comfortable with that. Like one thing with the Liberty is that I think that she may never be a situation where it's like, oh, you're going to be an all first team defensive player. I don't think she's ever going to reach that point. But I think that
I'm gonna let it go. Continue.
Yeah. But I think as far as like being someone who sort of like fits what the team is doing, where it's like, okay, if we're doing a lot of switching, I need you to get to this spot. Like you get there. We keep everything connected as long as, because Sandy always mentioned, as long as she brings that effort and energy, like that part would just sort of like help take care of everything else for her. So I think just in keeping with that as a frame of mind, because she's talked about how she's working to get better at it, just watching more tape, doing a lot of studying, doing all of these things. I feel like on that front, just sort of keep building that foundation and having the team fully in full chemistry, in full sort of like synchronization. As long as that part is rock solid, that's huge right there. And I think that as long as she gives effort on that side of the ball, because you'll have Lainey, you'll have a Stewie, you'll have a KT, you'll have JJ, you'll have elite defenders alongside of her. So it's a situation where if like if someone's trying to like really switch to get her on the ball a lot, you may sort of get by her. But there's Jonquel Jones ready to send that shot up into the 10th row of the stands for you, buddy. Got that weight.
And will.
Yep.
And so I think what you're saying is right. But for me, that means that she absolutely has to get a double-double. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be bullish on that. I mean, we know that she can get triple doubles.
Mhm.
I don't think rebounding for me is a bonus, especially if you keep Jonquel Jones. I don't think you necessarily quote unquote need her to rebound, but I mean, I'm gonna take them. But you need her to score. You need her to score at least. I mean, I feel like 12 is being generous.
Mhm.
The New York Liberty needs her to score. She needs to be scoring in double digits. She really needs to be pushing in that 16 to like 22, 24 range, just automatic for me. Because if the defense is not going to be there, then as they say, your best defense is your offense. Well, then there you go, Sab. That's what I need you to do. I think it's interesting to see some of these comments because I do want us to get us to talk about USAB. And I know we're gonna Misha's gonna exit a little bit prematurely. Exit. But I want to.
How you say exit in French?
I mean, it's how I do. So. I want to make sure we get some NCAA talk, but I love Damian mentioning, listen, Tosh Cloud, she could come to New York.
Relax. Whoa.
Whoa.
Pump your brakes. Is the way you act. Nah, hold on. Wait a minute. Okay.
Listen, Tosh Cloud could come through.
No, she can't.
I mean, she could. She
got a standing ovation from the Barclays crowd. We love her here in New York.
I mean, because the Aces got booed, so it's love. People were big mad. I was like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but to be honest with y'all, I feel like my heart wants her to remain loyal to DC, but frankly, I see her and Benijah Laney kind of in the same boat. Like Benijah, like you just talked about having that heart-to-heart with Sandy Brondello. That's because Benijah Laney's potential and like what she could really be for a team. You know what I mean? What she did this season, we saw her be excellent, but she's, we saw if you watch the Team USA versus Tennessee game, like she in spurts, Benijah Laney is that girl for real. So there's that same kind of situation happening with Tosh Cloud. I mean,
that's a good point.
The way that she
not to make it about the Mystics.
Not to make it about the Mystics. But I was gonna find a way to make it about them. Y'all made it about the Mystics actually in the comments. It wasn't even me.
You're right. I think JC might be right here, Damian. I'm sorry. Like I'm with it. She could come through. Open invitation. You feel me? But I feel like she got a good situation. I love though that you brought up that it might be a kind of meeting of the minds and just Tosh Cloud re-emphasizing what she believes her role to be, and then having that conversation with Eric Thibault. We can't make assumptions that just because the last name is the same, that everything else is going to be the same. And so I'm not saying that they haven't had that conversation, but I would definitely say if they haven't, or even if they have, it's worth revisiting because
we saw what she can do. We saw what she can do, and a player seeing that kind of potential and that kind of production out of themselves, it inspires you to go further. And
didn't New York offer her a qualifying offer a couple of years ago? Now it didn't quite work out, and she had to stay on social. I was like, dang, Todd, like it's like that.
I think from what I remember, didn't Washington instead of qualifying offer like literally 2 minutes later, like as soon as Washington was like, oh, don't even think about it. Here.
Yeah, that's funny. Now Skylar Diggins-Smith is interesting. I'll say this: Skylar Diggins-Smith seems to really or did really appreciate Sandy Brondello, and that's that magic. That sprinkle of magic that Sandy Brondello has for a player like, I'd say Brittany Griner for sure, and a player like Skylar Diggins-Smith. she seems to be able to handle all of the personality, all of the intensity that comes with a player like that, and still be supportive and have them operate and work within a system. So I think that one could be really interesting. But someone I had a conversation with, y'all gonna have to wait for the full article over at CBS Sports, but we were talking about USA basketball. So no Breanna Stewart at camp, no Asia Wilson at camp. And I don't know if y'all noticed, I don't know if it's her right or left, but she's got a cast. She's wearing a cast. Like everybody hurt. Everybody hurt. So camp that ends today for USA basketball. They were in Atlanta, and then they're going to play Duke over the weekend. Not even completely full. But there was one name that stood out to me among all the rest of them, because it's a name we haven't heard, certainly not in the WNBA for a little bit, and that is one Angel McCoughtry. Now, you want to talk about what's tea? Baby, the last time we heard Angel McCoughtry in the same sentence as the WNBA, it's when the Minnesota Lynx, who are coached and GM'd by one Cheryl Reeve, they bought out Angel McCoughtry's contract. I guess that was 2022, so before last season. Angel McCoughtry back in camp with USA basketball. Now I mentioned, or Misha, you actually mentioned the Tennessee game. That was the game technically prior to training camp, and they have another one against Carol Lawson and Duke coming up. Angel McCoughtry is not on the roster for either one of those games. So they split the roster. There's only a handful of players that are playing in both games, but Angel McCoughtry not playing in either. But when I had a conversation with Angel McCoughtry, and if you are a member of the Patreon posse for Black Rosie Media, you will have this audio by tomorrow. But when I asked Angel McCoughtry, because she's trying to make a comeback, y'all. She wants back in the WNBA. She's gone through some things. She's ready to come back. When I said, all right, well, you said you started watching games again. Who are some teams that you think is a good fit? And there were two teams that she mentioned explicitly before saying, I'm just looking to go back. But she mentioned Atlanta and she mentioned New York.
Just saying. Yeah. That's exciting. That's gotta be exciting if you're a New York Liberty fan, because
I'm just saying.
Folks who haven't seen Angel McCoughtry in a couple years, let me just remind y'all. One of the grittiest, you can watch basketball, you can tell there are certain players who just play with their will. It's not even their skill, it's their will. She's one of those players. She broke my heart in 2009 when Christy Tolliver and the Maryland Terrapins made it all the way to the NCAA tournament. I believe it was the Elite Eight, and Louisville knocked them out. But from that moment forward, I had nothing but respect for Angel McCoughtry.
But after that, we were cool.
A dog. Okay.
Okay. You know what? It's funny that you said that. Spell that. Can you spell that for me?
DAWG?
Hello. Because, I got my notes and quotes right here. And what did Angel McCoughtry say the New York Liberty need? And it might be something that you heard Auntie say a time or two. She said, they need that dog. Woo! Listen, I was trying to be a professional journalist. I had to put myself on mute because I was like, baby, Jonathan, where you at? Make it happen.
Make the call.
Put her on the team. She's trying to come back. Listen, now I wasn't at camp, so I cannot vouch for what Angel McCoughtry looked like. But if Angel McCoughtry with that DAWG wants to come back to the WNBA, come on with it.
Come on
with it. Okay, we're going to get to just a few more things because I want to get Misha to weigh in on these things because I see you wearing that Tribe hoodie. William and Mary.
I already know what it is.
You already see, you got to follow Misha Jones on the social media, see the game day fit and all that, getting on the headset and all that. All right. So it's NCAA. We've already had a few upsets.
Yeah.
LSU.
Yeah, LSU. I wasn't as surprised, and I feel like the entire Twitterverse was like reverberating from the shockwave of it all. Folks.
That's after JC. Thank you very much.
Oh, my bad.
That's for later. That's for later. These are just vibes.
JC, I gotta go to work after this, man.
These are just vibes. I do not. I prepared for it though. I've got the dose ready to go.
We just like to have fun, JC. That's it.
These are vibes. This is El Natural.
Purely unadulterated vibes. Unadulterated vibes.
Okay, sorry. So okay, you said you wasn't surprised by LSU.
Yes, because anybody who watched Colorado in the NCAA tournament last season, you know about Jalen Sherrod. Okay, and you want to talk about another player who plays with their will, Jalen Sherrod. I had the best time watching her play in the NCAA tournament last season, so I'm not surprised. It's early, folks. Everybody's not going to be perfect in game one. All right, let's relax. But I did see some fair critiques of LSU and heard some things that Kim Mulkey had to say about some players that should have stepped up and didn't step up. And so that's definitely a team I got my eye on. Big upset.
Okay. So what about the word on the street that South Carolina might not be what they used to be? Because I don't know, they was looking pretty good in Wee Wee Paris. I don't know.
That's insane. If anybody watched that game and said, "Oh, I don't know if South Carolina's got it like they used to," let me tell you something. They might have it better. They might have it better, in my opinion. Camila Cardoso and Raven Johnson. That connection, it reminds me of was it Ariel Massengale and Candace Parker? It reminds me of all the great point guard center duos that we've seen. And of course, it's reminiscent of what we've seen at South Carolina already. So them two, not even talking about Full Wiley yet. We're not even talking about her yet.
The scream I scrumped. The scream I scrumped. That was filthy.
What else do you want, people?
That was filthy. Behind the back, round the world, fake layup.
The cradle. Y'all didn't see she rocked the cradle to fake out the post defender right underneath the basket. It was so quick you could have missed it if you blinked. I mean, I
don't even know.
Wow. And her defense too. I don't want that to go unnoticed. She was guarding Hannah Hidalgo, who is obviously a bucket. When she had 31 points.
They were hype. That matchup was hype. Like, I know the score maybe didn't look like it, but that was a good game. I mean, a lot of people watching Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, and AZ Fudd healthy. We got to knock on some wood for the sisterhood.
All my wood is fake.
Oh no, I got you. Listen, UConn trying to do some things. Are there any teams right now, Misha, because you are our expert, before we got to get you out of here, are there any teams you feel like that are not being talked about, whether they are in the top 20 or not, who you think we should be on the lookout for? Because the next thing we got to talk about is the draft. So
this is true. I would say I'm a big mid-major person. We know this. Graduated from mid-major. We love you, William and Mary. Over here, I'm always going to rep Tribe or Die, TOD, okay? But I do think I got my eyes on GW. That's not CAA. That's A10. Nia Robertson, if anybody watched her play for GW last season, she was a freshman. And it was obvious she was trying to get her footing. But now that she's a sophomore, I feel like she's got experience. She's leading a GW team. She had another 30 ball, I think. 29 points in her first game on the 6th. And that's a team that in the A10, if they win the A10, I think they can make waves in the NCAA tournament. That's a far ways down the line. Okay, I understand. I do. Okay. And then I think the big, can we still call it the Big Ten? I don't know. All this conference movement and all that kind of stuff.
Who knows? For now, we'll go with it.
For now, I think I've got my eyes on the Big Ten as a conference this year, because I feel like they've regularly got a few teams that are up there in the top 25. Okay, we all know that, and that's cool. That's fine. But I think this is the year that one of these teams could really break the mold and
I love that.
Make a deep run in the tournament.
I love that. I love that you mentioned the A10. I know y'all too know this, but I was able to spend some time with the A10 women's basketball for Media Day. So I've got some stuff coming from there for CBS. But Misha, I know you might have to run. Wanted to make sure we got some NCAA talk in with you. But when is your next game and how can we tune in?
So William and Mary's next game. If y'all don't know, I am doing the color commentating for all of the William and Mary women's basketball home games this season. Yay! It's actually my first professional broadcasting gig ever, so we're super excited about that. But the next game is on Friday at 7 p.m. The Tribe play VCU coming to town to Williamsburg at Kaplan Arena. Excited about that one. And if you don't have eyes on William and Mary women's basketball, let me tell you, you know who is in the top of the stats and leading scorers so far after one game? Nyla Young from William and Mary had 29 points in her first game in a Tribe uniform. Keep your eyes on the Tribe. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Keep your eyes on the Tribe. All right, you heard it. Friday versus VCU. Make sure you listen to the voice of the
on
Tribe.
Pro Hoops, you need a subscription. Paywalls, people.
Listen,
what can I do?
That's all right. In this house on Black Rosy Media, we support people and their grind and their hustle. So do what you got to do. They almost always have some kind of, little free trial. And if that thing it expires, evaporates, know that you helping Misha Jones right here. So we love that for you, fam. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bon chance.
I'm about to exit. What you say?
She is going to exit. But we're going to catch you on next one in the off season talking about NCAA. All right, Misha, thank you so much. Brian, you and I, we get to answer these questions. So we hit on it a little bit, but Damien wants us to go back to this. What can Lainey and Ionescu do to become great players? Mentioned Stuart Wilson Tarasi. So I think we kind of talked about it with Sabrina, right? We talked about defense. I want to see her really hone in on being a double-digit scorer, like just automatic. I really do think that has to happen. When it comes to Benijah Laney's energy and her energy source that she gives to her team comes through her defense. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I don't really know how much more Benijah Laney can do, assuming we're going to assume some things, right, Damien? We're going to assume that she stays healthy because she hasn't been healthy always in her short stint with the New York Liberty. Mm-hmm. Assuming that she's healthy, I think she has to be a feeder and a driving force when it comes to her defense. And if I had to pick one thing for Laney, Brian, I want to know what your thoughts are on this. If I had to pick one thing for Laney, I'd say and I don't know, I'm going to make up an arbitrary number, but every 4 games, she has to get into a mode where she's like, I'm that chick when it comes to scoring. Because we know that she's going to be relied on for her defense, and that's what has kept her in the WNBA. But what I get the sense is that Laney wants people to put respect on her offensive game. And we, as New York Liberty media members and who are hosts of a podcast for New York Liberty fans, we know she can score. But I think she has to get greedy almost. Right? I want to see her just completely commit every 4 games or whatever her number, whatever her thing is, but just every once in a while, I need her to go in and completely commit. You want to talk about DT, Diana Taurasi, you can tell there are just some games where she's like, yeah, I'm gonna drop 80, and she's like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, for Laney, something I think that was interesting that we noticed throughout the year was that teams would try to hide their weakest defenders on her, and she punished that every time. I would like to see the Liberty sort of build on that even more. So if you think you're going to put your weakest defender and hide them on Laney, she's going to take you to the block, she's going to post you up, she's going to score on the move, she's a great finisher at the basket. So all these things I like to see sort of amplified a little bit more in 2024, just making sure that you build on that foundation. And I think a goal that I'd love to see for her to hit again is getting back to the All-Star game. I feel like that would be such a great acknowledgement of the heavy lifting she's done with this franchise. Back when she signed the extension, Jonathan mentioned that he sees her being in the Ring of Honor. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. You are 100% right. And I'd love to sort of see another All-Star season sort of help build on that and really sort of put the highlight on her even more, just so everyone else who isn't really tapped in with the Liberty like we are and the folks in New York City and I think deep WNBA watchers, they could be like, oh wow, she's bringing it every night. Like, she's doing it in every which way possible. She's captaining the perimeter defense. She's doing all these things. So I'd love to see just another all-star season for her, just to like really give that special extra acknowledgement. And especially considering how big 2024 all-star is going to be in Phoenix, with like all the Olympic tie-in and all the DT sort of like celebration stuff that we're going to be getting, DT, BG, all those kind of things all coming together as one. Like, hey, all-star from Rutgers University shining out one more time.
Go, Betnijah Laney. I love that. I love that. And having a goal to be being an all-star again. I love that. More NCAA coverage, absolutely. Only Eddies after, just for the record. I'm only speaking for me. I can't speak for the other hosts. I'll let them do what they want to do or not.
I am operating on just water.
On water. I did have some hush puppies. I tore them up too. I had me some hush puppies, man. Listen, I didn't know how I was going to feel about them, but they had this frozen bag of hush puppies. Because usually I'll just get the batter and make it myself. I went to school in North Carolina, just for those who maybe are not familiar. Hush puppies are basically like little cornmeal, and then you toss it in the fryer. But they had these things that you put them in the freezer, and then you just put them in the air fryer. And listen, I tore them things up. So anything else more earthy related will happen after the podcast. Thank you very much. But I did have my hush puppies, so maybe you're getting my hush puppy high. Like, I love hush puppies. Those are some good hush puppies. Anyway, did we catch the Tennessee USA game? JC, we didn't really get into it too much, but Betnijah Laney was the leading scorer in that game for Team USA. I know Misha alluded to it. Sabrina Ionescu and Betnijah Laney were starters alongside Taurasi. It was Taurasi, Griner, and Ka, right?
Yeah.
So really great to see. They built in some chemistry, obviously, with the two Phoenix players, two New York Liberty players, and Ka is just, is Ka. Ka gone Ka. Now, Ka did, speaking of hush puppies, Ka went off on media, not on media, on Twitter, on WNBA Twitter. She said, y'all led her astray. Y'all did not take her to the right soul food spot. She gave a whole review of the Busy Bee. I ain't never heard of it, but apparently it's not where to go for mac and cheese.
Uh-oh.
I know. That's crazy. So these are my takeaways. I think Sabrina Ionescu, to the question that Brian asked her, what I'm going to be looking for in the Duke game, because Sabrina will be one of those players that plays in both games. Betnijah, I do not believe is on the roster for the Duke game, if I remember correctly. I think she was only for the Tennessee game. We will get to see Sabrina again. We know that Sabrina gets a lot of attention, shall we say. And in the World Cup, I mean, there were times where people were questioning how she was being utilized and what her minutes were. So I think from what she said regarding her hip injury even, and how she answered your question about utilizing USA basketball to help with some of that situational awareness, and maybe that's what it is. For me, I think maybe the situational awareness has to grow for Sabrina Ionescu. And we know that she has the potential to be an elite level player. But what she does not have, that Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Courtney Vandersloot, at least in the WNBA, Asia Wilson. I mean, we can go on. Arike Agumbawale. What do all those players have in common? They've had to play at an elite level, either in the WNBA and some in the WNBA and in the NCAA. So they got their, mom spaghetti moment out of the way. So Sabrina's still working on that. And I do think I loved your question, because I do think it's going to be something that will only help and benefit. And I do think that Sabrina is going to want to lock in and try to make an Olympics. I think she was pretty calm and tame about it, because of course someone asked her that question. They also threw in a Kobe reference. And I was like, know how that relates. I mean, he was an Olympian, so there you go. But anyway, no tea, no shade, as Misha would say. But at some point, are we gonna always ask this child about Kobe Bryant? You know what I'm saying?
And I feel I think especially it's a situation I think about a lot, where it's he was my hero, and she's someone that she knew that's someone she knew personally, and I'm like, it's one of those like that's your person. Don't ask her about that. Like
it's strange. It's strange. I think this is an interesting one. So we like Angel McCoughtry's game, but can she do that at 37 years old? Well, listen, how old was Sue Bird when she retired? 40, 41? DT's what, 87 years old now? Let me stop. She's 102. No, obviously I'm joking. That is a joke. It is a joke. Please don't give me the Kelsey Plum treatment. But I mean, that's a good question, Damien. And I was not at training camp in Atlanta, so I can't speak to that. I did speak to Angel McCoughtry, and I'll have that article coming for CBS Sports. But I can only say I'm an eye test person, so I don't know what she can do realistically, and we won't get to see her in the exhibition games. But sooner rather than later, she mentioned that she's not going to go overseas. Kind of alluded to everything that's happening in the world. Good Lord, there's just so many things, even since the last time we did a podcast, that are going on in the world. And she alluded to that. Athletes Unlimited said she's looking into it. So I guess we're just going to have to see.
Yeah.
I think what maybe becomes a reason that Jonathan Kolb looks into it is because one thing we do know about Angel McCoughtry is that even though she left the Minnesota Lynx and that was to do with injury, she's been training. And she would be a role player at 37 and as someone who hasn't played in the WNBA for a while. But if the New York Liberty wants more athleticism, especially on the backcourt, I mean, she's a wing, so you could she's kind of like a Laney, right? Like depending on what the matchup is. But if you need more athleticism, if you need that dog, and if you need a short-term contract, because Maureen Johannes out of the mix for next year. Let's just assume that that's the case. And honestly, for her sake, I hope that she's not with the Liberty next year. But I would assume that the Liberty would want to have Maureen Johannes back. So if you get a contract like McCoughtry, she becomes maybe a veteran bridge player. We know, or I know from talking to her, that she wants to try to win another championship. So there's only a handful of teams that realistically, she can play for. But you can do what they did with Sloot, what they did with JJ, and give her a 1 year. And then maybe, try to figure things out. Honestly, I'd be all right with it.
Yeah. And I think, I guess just thinking about contract stuff, like when 2025 hits, that's in theory, that's when all the money should be hitting. So like, all the players have been signing like 1 or 2 year deals with like 2025 coming free. So it's like, okay, you're here for 1 year. If it works for you and you want to continue with us, there's more money in the pot for everybody coming up. Fingers crossed that we get there. So that could work out for her as well too. I think it was, I saw someone in the comments mention, it might have been Damien, that maybe bringing Dee Richards back.
Yes.
Yeah, I know people love Dee in New York. And I know that especially even in exit interviews, our friend Miles Ehrlich asked Jonathan Kolb about Dee, and because she had mentioned to him that Jake, Jonathan, and Sandy helped get her to the team she's in Australia.
Yeah.
So that bond is still there, and if Dee feels that she's ready to make it back, and there's definitely going to be spots open for the Liberty next year. So
that's true. Always, she was a hard cut. Jonathan talked about that in exit interviews, to your point. So that's interesting. Candace Parker sounds like she's still recovering. Also, I don't think she's leaving Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. And I don't know that she's the most obvious fit for the New York Liberty. I mean, but if Candace Parker wants to come to New York, I feel like you figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the most obvious choice between Tosh Cloud, who I also don't think is coming, but I think it's a little more intriguing. Now Tina Charles, listen. In my house, I promise you, like if I could reach over, I'm not going to do it right now because we're already running long. But I have a bin here. We're doing a little. It's not spring cleaning, but I'm cleaning. I still have a Tina for MVP poster, like in my little tchotchkes over here. So in this house, I stand Tina Charles.
Mhm.
I think she's a misunderstood player, crushing it in China right now, by the by. I think her days with the Liberty are done.
Yeah.
I don't think it ended well. Yeah, I don't think she's coming back, fam. I don't think she's coming back.
Yeah, it was very much like after 2019, the closing of one chapter and admission and entering into a new area and into a new era, I would say. And I feel like, and especially with Jonathan saying that they were big heavy last year, it's like, oh, you're big heavy. Here's another big.
There's
And
another big, yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be tricky. Just so it doesn't escape my mind, someone
Yeah.
had mentioned what if Sabrina should attack more rather than settling for threes.
Right
That's
over here.
interesting. And I think just to the improvement piece I was thinking about earlier, I think something that she has talked about before throughout the year is just sort of finishing at the rim. Because she mentioned, I think it was back in sometime in like maybe July, I want to say, maybe like June or July. She mentioned that when she would drive to the basket, sometimes she would drive to pass and just like not drive to like score or really just be definitive in what she was doing in that way. And I think that if she's able to like, because she can like she has good touch at the rim, she can really get floaters high up off the glass, so she can do that. So I guess now as we sort of move into 2024 for her, is just when you drive to the basket and you have those lanes, just drive the score and then trust if the shot's not there, your court vision is good enough that you can get the pass out to somebody in the corner, do it that way, but don't sort of like drive and be tentative in that regard or like sort of like do too much mental math in your head within a split second.
Yeah.
So I think that to that point, just keeping the pressure going downhill, because anytime you can get downhill and really sort of force the defense to come get after you as you're getting to the basket opens up so many great opportunities for your teammates. So keeping her foot on the pedal in that way, I think would be very beneficial. And I think that when she does get down there, like don't overthink it, just do. And then you're a 90% free throw shooter anyway. So even if it's not the greatest shot, you get contact. That's 2 points going for you back the other way.
I really love that you brought this up again because I did see that comment and we talked about this. I've talked about this a lot when it came to Courtney Vandersloot. We know that Courtney Vandersloot is a very good driving, penetrating guard. And for whatever reason, that part of her game seemed a little stagnant. It seemed to be dried up and didn't really... I wanted more from Courtney Vandersloot from that respect. But I agree with you that Sabrina Ionescu, I don't think she's as athletic. I've talked about her first step all the time because it still drives me. That's something she could work on. Work on that first step, girl. I see you putting in work. It's better. It ain't great, but it's better. So yes, keep driving downhill, but to add a wrinkle to what you said, because I agree with everything that you said, and there was a moment where you were talking where I was like, not only does she have to focus on shoot first and finish, but I want her to, because I know Sabrina can do this, but she needs to absorb contact. She needs to, I'm tired of seeing her head snap back. You know the move. You know the move. We all know the, listen, we're going to keep it real. This is a podcast for New York Liberty fans, so I don't need to sugarcoat it. But you know when that ponytail snapped back, we in a bad way. We in a bad way. I don't need none of that, Sabrina. I need that ponytail to whip forward. You feel me? Put that head down, drive that shoulder into somebody's chest. Come on. That's what I want to see. I don't want to, no more of that. No more. We're not doing it. Leave that in 2023, sis.
And also, I think the fact that you can't leave her alone from 3-point range, like they're gonna have to close out hard every time she's even open for half a second. So those lanes are gonna be there all the time. So hey RC.
We just want to make sure we say, hey, enjoy. Yeah, we're gonna switch to NCAA in a little bit. We talked about that with Misha as well. Thanks for stopping by. Come through again. We're gonna be here in the off season. Sorry, Brian. I just want to say hi.
Absolutely. Like, I'm glad that we've got so many folks pulling up and just from different places and different spaces. So that part always feels great. And back to Sab, I think operating in space made that work. Operating in space and being able to sort of like make defenders really come out to you all the time and really being able to get to the basket. Something else she mentioned, I think she talked about it at exits last year, and she mentioned it a little bit throughout the year and in exit. I think she mentioned it in exits again this year too. Just sort of like being able to score without screens. I think that especially if you're able to get to your spots without having that extra defender come in and sort of like jam everything up, it creates one more opportunity for the Liberty, because New York has like, they have 3 players who can just be like, oh, isolate, everybody got the way, you make it work. And Stewie, JJ, and Laney, if Sabrina is able to do that, even to not at the level of like a Laney, but if she's able to get somewhere close to that and just add that to her game, that's even more opportunities for her to do stuff and be able to create mismatches and difficulties for opponents. Because, hey, you've got a record-breaking 3-point shooter who can do a little bit on her own without having the screen come by. That is impossible to navigate. And then you've got JJ at full strength. You've got Stewie with Stewie not having to go 1,000 miles per hour at the beginning of the season all the way to the end. Laney's doing her thing. Sloot's able to drive and make those right passes. That makes an already great Liberty offense even more impossible to handle. So I think if she's able to get that part into her game as well too, it opens up more avenues for Sandy, Olaf, Zach, and the coaches to really sort of get stuff going in that way.
I love that. So that's how we're going to answer your question, Damien. All of those things are what the Liberty need to do to break the losing curse. I mean, that squad from 2023, Brian, was just about as good as they could do in this first year. I'd say really probably about 2.5 years removed from the hybrid rebuild. No, I think, jokes aside, Jonathan Cole did a good job with this roster. We've talked about it before. It was the easy bake oven version, not of the Aces, but of the Aces' success. The Aces built through the draft. The New York Liberty have never historically done that. They had to build through free agency. And so it's a different path. And the time it takes to build through a draft when you have back-to-back-to-back number 1 picks, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, and Kelsey Plum were all picked consecutive. I didn't do it in order, so it went Plum, Wilson, Young. But that's wild. That's big bad Bill Laimbeer. I've said a few times that we're gonna have to do a deep dive into Bill Laimbeer. I have some thoughts on that man. He's an intriguing character for sure. But the New York Liberty they have their team, right? This season was the equivalent of the Aces going through season 1 with Jackie Young, right? Did they win in that first year that they had 3 consecutive number 1 picks? No. It took a while. And so if the Liberty can weather the storm of what will be an Olympics, where they're going to have to be, they inevitably are going to have to be more mindful about Breanna Stewart's minutes. They cannot overwork her, and they really shouldn't, even if it's not an Olympic year. Yeah. But I think they're going to be working on some, how do we say, an agreement, an understanding that Breanna Stewart is going to want to compete in the Olympics. And I think it's safe to assume that that the USA basketball is going to take her. I think she just needed some rest. I got a text message here and it threw me all off. But I think it's safe to assume that USA basketball is going to want to have her back.
We've got the Olympic Pumas on deck.
Olympic Pumas. I cannot wait. Yo, that MetroCard Puma t-shirt was tight that she had on. I loved it. But so yeah, I think that this is a really good start. It sucks to say it, but I even think the loss is really good for the New York Liberty. It sucked in the moment, but if they look back on it, I do think that the New York Liberty will learn from things, especially in Game 4, that they could have done to extend the season. Were they going to win this series? Who knows? But anything happens if you take it to a Game 5. And they fell short. They fell short of that. And they're going to have to really have a meeting of the minds individually in the offseason. I'm sure they'll think about it. And then when they come back for training camp, they'll talk about it. And that's the exciting part. Putting in the work after the heartache and do exactly what the Aces did. They made it to the semifinals and they made it to the final. And then they kept being a part of the conversation in the top 4 teams. The Liberty have to do that. That's the way that they're going to overcome the hump. It's the only way to do it. I mean, unless you're Chicago or Phoenix, and then you come in as like an 8 seed and just win the whole thing. But not everyone can be Phoenix. Not everyone can be Chicago. And why do it that way if you can just stay on the top and get home court advantage? So that's what we're going for. Okay, I'm just seeing this one. Maybe wouldn't you want the Liberty to have Candace Parker other than McCautry coming off the bench? I want Dee Richards and Rebecca Allen. Damian, you want a lot, fam. Listen, you want a lot. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't see Candace Parker coming to the New York Liberty. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up a UConn fan and she went to Tennessee. I don't know. But I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Now, if it did happen, would I personally say no to it? No. Even if I did, it don't matter. It's what Jonathan Cole wants to do. Candace ain't coming to New York. She's going to leave Las Vegas to come to New York? That ain't happening. That don't make no sense. She got she said in an interview that dropped today that she had a fracture in 85% of her left foot, and it was her right ankle or something that was jacked up. Like, she got other things to worry about. I don't think she's trying to test free agency.
Yeah, fly cross country, start all over with a third team in 3 years. Yeah, that's not
no sense.
And family's close to LA anyway, and
it's not happening, fam. I don't see it happening. Not next season, man. I mean, who knows? I mean, because she left Chicago, and who thought that was going to happen? So maybe, but I don't see it happening for next year. I don't see her coming to New York. McCautry, I'm not going to lie. If McCautry said she wanted to come to New York, yeah, that intrigues me. That intrigues me for sure. Would I take McCautry over Dee Richards at this point in time? Absolutely. Now, if you told me Rebecca Allen wanted to come back to New York, I'd say, let's go. Come on back. Shouldn't have left in the first place. Come on back.
Hey, no need to Photoshop Rebecca in a New York jersey.
All
the folks who do the artwork for free agents, nope. Just pull up an
image. Out the archives.
Good to go.
That's it. Pull back the archives. Yeah, we will take Rebecca Allen for sure. Dee Richards. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know if I see it. I've been Hanju. I think her days with the Liberty are just about done, and that's fine by me. I thought it was it had its moment, and the moment has passed. Han, I don't think makes sense for the long term for the New York Liberty. It sounded like Steph Dolson was preparing herself to maybe not be a part of the New York Liberty from the exit interviews. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, I think especially like she wants to come back because like she's really enjoyed being in New York, and it's one of those things where I guess this is where Jonathan, this is the tough part of this kind of job, especially when you built a relationship with people. And Steph was the big free agent last year who helped get the Liberty into that Game 3 against the Sky. All these kind of things, it's the part where you gotta sort of figure out, okay, can we make that last step and do it while still having enough room to maybe get better on the margins while still having a role for players like a Steph or a Jocelyn, who I think who also mentioned that she wants to come back, but Lord knows what the makeout is going to be of what the team does as far as like free agency, draft, things of that nature.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really hard, and
I do want to see Jocelyn back. I will say that. I think she's another player that probably could have and should have been used a little bit more. And knowing that there's going to be a little shakeup, I personally would love to see Joss get a real chance with this New York Liberty squad. And I think that she has that chance, just given how things are going to play out next year. Obviously, she would have to stay healthy, but I would like to see it because I think she brings another player that gives you defensive intensity that you can have coming off of the bench. She has that athleticism. With her size, I think, she would maybe have to get a little bit more comfortable with her ball handling on the offensive side of things, but effectively at her size, you're pretty much, she's a kind of Swiss Army knife wing, if you want to say that, but more so height-wise, especially against Dallas, Vegas, is more a backcourt kind of size-wise player. So, I think she could be intriguing. But Jonathan, he's gonna have some decisions to make. Decisions. Does McCautry come into the mix? I mean, I think it's intriguing, but at the sacrifice of a Joss, at the sacrifice of potentially a Steph Dolson, although obviously they're not necessarily like for like McCautry and Dolson. I mean, but I don't know. And again, I haven't seen Angel McCautry, so I'm just saying that she wants to come back and that she mentioned New York. I'm not saying that she, is the same Angel McCautry that we saw,
and just
up Phoenix.
one other curveball I want to sort of throw into the mix is Niara Sabally has looked pretty solid in the EuroLeague clips I've seen so far, and rookie year. A little bit further away from the knee surgery in 2022. And as it happens, I think Germany is going to be competing in the Paris Olympics as well on the women's hoop side. So
she's on the team. Yeah, they announced Satu. I haven't seen them say anything about Niara though.
Yeah, but I feel like she might be a good bet in because I know she's looked pretty good in some of the clips I've seen in EuroLeague. So it's like, oh wow, we have a young big who's getting more comfortable doing that. Hey, in year 2, do we turn her loose a little bit more? How do we manage her and her growth? Because I know especially the Liberty
Sandy will do that. I think it was tough for her to reconcile doing that and just being a lot of it being very new, which makes sense. It makes sense, and you can go back and forth. Was she too conservative at some points in time? I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? At the end of the day, it's like she told us, you go with the player that you have the confidence in to take the shot. And that's not just on drawing up a play for game 4. That's throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have Nolan coming in. What team in the W do you think looks real close at Cardozo next spring at the draft? Where does she fit in? Okay, so now we were talking with Misha earlier, and we'll probably close after this one, Nolan. But so I think you want to find a combo like Misha was talking earlier, where you can have a really great post and guard connection. And so if I'm thinking about a team that has a really solid, great facilitating guard or guards, but maybe needs or could benefit from having a younger post player. I mean, I think LA stands out for me. I think Seattle. And those are two lotto teams. So there you go. Indiana obviously has Aaliyah Boston. So I don't know if that's necessarily the right fit at the right time. And then who's the other? Oh, I have it in our notes. I should maybe look at our notes instead of just going off the cuff here. But who am I missing? Who's the other? Lotto team?
I think it's Phoenix, right?
Is it Phoenix? Probably.
Yeah, I think Phoenix this year, yeah.
Probably. So I mean, those are the obvious choices, right? But if I'm really thinking about what you're asking and thinking about what Misha said earlier, for me, I think Brian, Seattle and LA stand out because I think you have guards that can benefit from her size and her style, but also you have, I think the age range. So with LA, who are we looking at as their post players? I guess Hamby, right? Hamby and the Ogumake sisters.
Like,
Well, I guess Chene is kind of is she like a wing maybe? I don't know, but well, I don't know. And she's also unfortunately not always the healthiest. So I think LA could be a decent spot. She's learning under those veterans, but has potential also to still get some minutes. And then with Seattle, so Seattle they won't have Gabby Williams. She already said
oh
she's
yeah,
not coming back because of Paris 2024. And they have Ezzy, who could be another player maybe with the Australian national team. So the Australian national team, though, not quite the same as some of the other teams, especially because Sandy Brondello coaching in the W. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Cardozo?
I feel like
No
Seattle's.
problem, Nolan.
Glad you're here. I think, like you mentioned, just having a guard that can really sort of make things easy for her in that way, just sort of and building out that combination. I think Seattle will be a perfect fit because Ezzy is such a Swiss Army knife and does everything well. I think if you put her next to another big that like a Cardoso is, Ezzy can make that happen. And with all the attention that Jewel Lloyd gets, easy baskets are going to be available for Cardoso. So I feel like if Seattle is a landing spot, that would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I like that. Well, Nolan, we talked about it a little bit with Misha, who had to run. But Misha is she's expert on a lot of things, but definitely has her finger on the pulse in the NCAA. And so we're going to use the off season to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, specifically with the NCAA game and the WNBA game, but then also keeping an eye on like what just happened in the past couple of days, USAB camps, other national teams as they're starting to announce their rosters. So that's what the off season is going to look like for Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. We obviously are going to focus on players that are in New York Liberty camp, or maybe even some players that might be in a New York Liberty uniform down the road. But as we always do, we're just hoops fans, and we're going to talk about the women's game. But for Misha Jones, who had to hop off a little early, we've got Brian Fleurantin here from Brooklyn and Erica L. Ayala hanging out in Tulsa. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications so you know the next time we have a Gotta Get Up off-season episode. But I think we got through a lot. We went through a lot, from K-Plum clapbacks to why Angel McCautry might want to come to the New York Liberty. We talked about hush puppies. We did a lot, Brian.
we always cover all the bases here.
All the bases. Thank you, JC. And I see that little extra leaf love at the end. Oh, you bet. Thank you so very much. All right, y'all. Have a great night. We'll catch you on the next one. Probably, if not next week, the week after that. We'll probably do every other week in the off season. All right. Enjoy women's basketball tonight and always. Peace out, everybody.